Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a fantastic guest, Captain Jimbo Keith. He's a second-generation guide and outfitter out of Cedar Key, Florida. All right, here we go. Jimbo Keith, the most challenging thing about running an airboat.
They don't steer good on mud.
Okay. That sounds like out of experience.
I'm Captain Jimbo Keith, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
All right, Jimbo, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, doing good, bud. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's nice to meet you and have you on the show. I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
So, from what I hear, you are the man in Cedar Key.
I try to be.
Tell me about Cedar Key. That's a place in Florida that I've always heard about. I've always heard about it. It's a legendary place, old Florida. I know it's beautiful. I know that it's a great place to fish, but I have never been there. Sell me on Cedar Key.
So Cedar Key is about an hour kind of west-northwest of Gainesville, Florida, where Florida Gators are.
Mm-hmm.
It is a community all on its own. So I didn't grow up in Cedar Key, but I grew up in Gainesville and hunted and fished that direction my whole life. Was raised over there fishing. And to tell you the truth, a lot of the locals that live there will tell you it has changed. But in retrospect, it has not changed like down south it's changed. It's still the same mom and pop stores. You know, the faces might change, but the buildings are all the same. You get some new paint and fresh paint and looks, but there is no commercial. There's no fast food. There's only one gas station. There's no red lights. There's 2 stop signs in the town, going in on Highway 24. But it is a neat little place.
It sounds like paradise so far.
No
fast food.
No fast food.
It's
all
of
home.
stoplights.
Yep.
I love
it's
it.
Awesome. It's got some nice condos and places to stay and shops, to shop. It's got a couple really good restaurants that are there right on the water. So if you're sitting in the restaurant, you're overlooking the Gulf right there. Awesome fishing. Awesome fishing.
So you grew up there? Is that where you
I grew up fishing down there. Yes, sir.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Gainesville.
Okay.
Yep. That's where I was born and raised, right here.
All right.
Still live right here.
And then what's the process to becoming a fishing guide for you?
So my dad started our company back in 1985. He started guiding. And in 2006, I came on board with him. And the process is I have to kind of step back right there because I have a lot of guys coming up here that are like, man, I love fishing. I want to be a charter boat captain. This is a big dream of mine. I'm like, well, hang on. Because if you love fishing, you need to kind of step back and realize that ain't what it's about. And you know as well as I know, when you're a charter boat captain, you got to enjoy watching other people fish. It's not about you being the fisherman. It's kind of like a bartender loving to drink. If you're going to be a bartender, you got to love mixing drinks and being around people.
And actually probably maybe even not drink, right? Like
not drink.
Be around a bunch of drunk people. That sounds like super fun. But that's how it is being a fishing guide. I've had to have the same conversation with a lot of people that are just super passionate fishermen, and they think they're going to take that and be a great fishing guide. And that's not always the case, because a lot of people just cannot stand the fact that they found this situation that they've never personally been in their life, the biggest school of tailing redfish they've ever seen in their life, and here's this person that can't even cast 10 feet.
Exactly.
And people get upset about that. That is kind of a situation that a lot of people aren't expecting of how they're going to react in that situation when they are a fishing guide. I don't know how you did it, but or how you do it, but I always I had a mindset when I was the angler, and I've got a mindset when I'm the guide. And
100%.
When you're the guide, it's like, that's all. It's cool. Like, we're here to learn. Everything's great. How great is it that we just found this opportunity?
Exactly.
Let me tell you, I've never seen this before in my entire life.
That's it. Yep, that's exactly right.
So did you struggle with that when you first started guiding?
Kind of, but I had a pretty good role model. My dad unlike a lot of captains nowadays, my dad made me go on the boat with him before he would let me start taking customers.
How many days do you think?
Years. Probably close to a year and a half that I actually was with him actively, but I helped him before I was even old enough to get my captain's license. He let me come on the boat and be his mate, and kind of watch how he did things. And at that time I was shoot, I'd be up there ripping lips, and he'd be like, "Hey, look, you got to wait. Let him have the first shot. Let the customer catch him." And that's where I really learned what it's like to be a charter boat captain. And now, look, I can't hardly not be the guide. If I have my family on the boat and I could be on the bow, I step back because I really fell in love with watching other people do it and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. As far as getting your captain's license, you got to go through the Coast Guard, just like, anywhere in the world, and takes a certain amount of time to get it. But I've been doing it since 2006 now, and I can't see myself doing anything else.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So you do you have other guys that work for you, or are you all by
our business, Saltwater Assassin Fishing Charters, is actually owned and operated by me, my dad, Captain Jim Keith, and my cousin, Captain Stephen Keith, and then I have an uncle that guides part-time with us as well, and that's Robbie Robertson. But the three of us full-time in Cedar Key, we are the biggest charter boat service in Cedar Key.
Mm-hmm.
There is Cedar Key's a small town, and there's several new guides coming in and some old ones that's been there for a long time. But to sustain three boats off of one website and one social media presence is pretty awesome in that little town.
Yeah, especially to keep it in the family like that.
We keep it in the family, and we give away some business, and we swap some business with other guides in different areas. But we all fish about 270 days a year, each one of us. So that's a bunch. So
yeah, that's
we're very
outstanding.
blessed.
It's really
very, very blessed.
You have a really it's kind of a magic little formula when you can have a place that has the weather that allows close to 300 days of guiding a year, and then also enough tourism, to allow that, because a lot of places do have the weather and they do have the fishing, but they don't have the people. That's what I was always fortunate with in Key West, is that we had the weather, we had the people, and if you could figure out how to get booked that many days, then you could fish. And then it was a matter of like, oh boy, now I've got 300 days booked. Can I
stay on it?
Can I stay sane?
Exactly.
Can I stay married? Can I stay everything? And so Rob told me that you stay in shape too. Do you stay in shape so that you can fish that many days?
I mean, I love it. Some of my other family, they don't stay in shape and don't work out, but it's become something that me and my wife do together, and we both really like it. It's kind of a cross between it's kind of like CrossFit, but it's not really CrossFit.
Yep.
We call it a cross training, using a lot of dumbbells instead of barbells.
Mm-hmm.
But our gym offers it, which is a local gym right here in Gainesville, and we both love it. It's something we do every morning at 5 o'clock.
Is that
so
right?
I get up at 4 o'clock, go to the gym at 5, and then I'm in Cedar Key ready to work by 8. So
nice.
That's
great. And then seasonally, you don't go earlier or sometimes of the year or anything?
It all depends. Sometimes we'd start later. If we're doing a 4-hour trip, we have a pretty good tide swing up in our area.
Mm-hmm.
So
how big is a tide swing?
So we got about a 5-foot tide swing.
Okay.
Certain times of year it might be a little less, some might be a little more. This time of year we have a real negative tides, which are really good. We might start at noon some days and fish the afternoon. And then some days we might start at daylight. If I do the daylight starting, I go to the gym later. So it kind of messes up my gym time a little bit. But, you got to do what you got to do when it comes to work.
Yeah. Do you find that it has helped you maintain a 270-day schedule over the year, being in a little better shape?
Oh, yeah. I'm able to go and continue. It just keeps, your body moving, a little more flexible. So I think long term, it will help a lot.
There's no doubt about that. No doubt about it. All right, Jimbo, we're going to start in on the hot seat questions. So I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but I have a series of questions that are either or. You tell me quickly as you can which you prefer.
Okay.
Pretty easy. And some of them are like, I ask you something, but it's pretty quick, rapid fire questions. All right, you ready to go?
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Fresh or salt?
Salt.
Hunting or fishing?
Hunting.
Cooking or catching? Hunting, huh?
Catching, definitely.
Drive or fly?
Oh, fly.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Text or call?
Text.
Favorite social media platform?
Instagram.
Do you answer every comment or do you never look at them?
I try to answer them.
Okay. 1 million now or 10 million later?
Oh, 10 million later.
Mm-hmm. One thing you've learned in the last year that has made you money?
Listen to people that are above you.
Good one. Most challenging thing about running an airboat?
They don't steer good on mud.
Okay. That sounds like out of experience. The easiest thing about running an airboat?
The throttle is your friend.
Okay. One thing you would change about your fishing career if you could do it over again?
Get into social media a long time ago.
Okay.
As soon as it hit.
A movie that makes you laugh?
Elf.
Would you have a reptile as a pet?
Nope.
A non-fishing destination that you'd like to visit?
Wyoming.
Top fishing destination on your bucket list?
See, that's a tough one for me because I can do them all in Florida.
Yeah.
So let's just say Florida.
Okay.
South Florida.
South Florida. There you go. One accomplishment that comes to mind?
Being able to represent what my dad started.
Okay. Very good. One species you'd like to catch?
Peacock bass.
A book that you learned something from?
A Land Remembered.
Love that book.
It's the best one.
That's a great book. One thing you've changed your mind on in the last 2 years?
Airboats.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. And the last one is one piece of advice that has served you well or that you live by.
Listen to the older folks.
Okay, so that came up twice.
Yeah.
Listen to the older folks. Listen to people that are above you. How has that served you? What did you learn about that? Who have you been listening to?
I try to listen to all my peers. Here's a rule that I live and die by. If somebody thinks they know everything, that's the first time I stop listening to them. So I kind of tune them out. When they have an answer for everything and they act like they know that answer, I kind of tune them out a little bit. So everybody's got something to learn. And if usually somebody that's older got a little white hair, they've been around this place longer.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a little more to share. So,
do you learn from your customers?
Oh, yeah. Several times I've had people on the boat and they're like, hey, that spot over there looks fishy. I'm like, I ain't never fished that before. I ain't never caught nothing there. And they're like, well, let's try it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Pull over there, make a couple casts and jack a couple. And you're like, all right. Or they show me a new knot, or they're like, hey, this is what we do over on, in North Carolina where we catch speckled trout and redfish. And I'm like, all right. And I start kind of bringing it in.
So many times I had good conversations with people that taught me things about outside of fishing, about business, about relationships. Like, I mean, I don't know, as you're a fishing guide, you're also a marriage counselor, and you're like 24 years old, maybe never been married at the time, and they're telling you everything. It's like, if I get married, I'm not going to do that, and I am going to do that. Like, it seems pretty easy. This guy seems to be having a really hard time with it, and he's the CEO of this multinational corporation, right? Like,
no doubt.
Like maybe you should be a little smarter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, maybe you should have your stuff together.
I mean, some of them did, and some of them didn't, and some of them I learned a ton about. I learned a lot through their failures, and others certainly taught me a lot about their success. And as a fishing guide, you're taking a lot of people that are very, very successful in their fields. And I think you'd be real naive to think that they couldn't teach you anything,
I think sometimes we focus on where people are in their life and not where they came from. So we see them people that are real successful and they're getting to go on, let's just say they're going on a charter trip with you or a charter trip with me or some of the other really well-known guides. And you're like, man, that guy's got it together. But you don't look at how long they struggled and where they came from and how many times they failed. Just like our buddy Rob, he didn't really fail, but he's tried a lot and he's finally got it. I mean, where he's just nailing things. Yeah. So you kind of look where the road they traveled.
Man, I don't know a single successful person, like uber successful person, that didn't have quite a number of failures in their background. And that's one of the things I started as I got more experienced in guiding. When I was a first got my captain's license and taking people, I just kind of was like, I'm just going to shut up because I don't know anything. And like, I'm going to try not to make a fool out of myself today. Hopefully this guy catches a fish. But later, when you get a little more comfortable with where you are and who these people are, and a lot of times you fish with them a lot. And then you can kind of ask them like, before you did this, what did you do before? And they're like, oh,
yeah.
Do you really want to know that story? Like, and then they tell you this series of failures that they had. And it's like, well, what was it that you finally did that led to this amazing success that you have? And they're like, I knew it all the time. It was about organizing, my thoughts, or it was about, I got this partner, or, like something happened and it really turned on for him. But
turned everything around.
It always gave me hope that anybody could do that.
For sure.
So in your area, you run an airboat. Do you run an airboat all the time?
No, sir. I run a bay boat probably 90% of the time.
So tell me about the airboat and the months and when you decided that was something that you wanted to run.
So it's just like we just talked about, tries and failures.
Yeah.
I tried to stay away from an airboat. We ran Carolina skiffs for a while and loved them. My cousin and uncle still run them. This past year, me and my dad moved up to the bay boat world. And a couple years ago, I got a mud boat, and I tried that in our area. And it just wouldn't do what I wanted. I couldn't go in the places I wanted to go on the tides I was in. And by the time I could get in there, there'd be airboats already in there and be wearing the fish out. And that frustrated me. And there again, I got blessed with being able to get an airboat. Very, very blessed. And was able to, the guy said, hey, what boat would you like to have if you could have a new boat? And I said, an airboat. And he's like, okay. And it came to pass that I got to pick an airboat out. I didn't get a new one, but I got a used one. And never drove one before in my life. Ran boats my whole life, never drove an airboat. Got my airboat. I've been on them and got on it. And it took about, I don't know, 1 or 2 trips to really feel comfortable running it. Because it is different. There's a little bit of a learning curve, especially in the mud on dry land. If they're in the water, they act just the same as any other boat. You get them dry, they act different. And now it's addicting. It is very addicting to run an airboat.
And so, is that I mean, it sounds like there's quite a number of people that run airboats in that area.
There's a few in our area that guide with them. There's a lot of people that do run. So starting about, you said time-wise, from about December through February, maybe early March, you can stay in an airboat and catch redfish. A speckled trout bite, that's our 2 bread and butter fish right there that we catch. And the speckled trout are a little more difficult to catch out of an airboat because the places that you're fishing, they don't get that far back up in there. The one thing the airboat has allowed me to do is not have to worry about weather. So this time of year, we start getting these fronts come in and it's blowing 25, 30 mile an hour. And even though it might not rain, it'll blow for 3 or 4 days and it blows all the water out. Well, when you got an airboat, that is the number one. It's time to go. A lot of people won't be out there. And if I have people booked, the airboat don't matter. Man. You get up in those creeks, the wind does not have an effect on you. It's not like you're having to get out there and beat in the chop. I pull in there, I've got power poles on it, pull in the creek, power pole down, throw out a live shrimp or a live mud minnow, little chub, and it's on.
So walk me through what that day would look like if you're running your Carolina skiff or your bay boat.
If you're outside, it can be horrible.
Are there a lot of days, like now that you're in the airboat, you're comfortable with it, are there a lot of days that it was just a total cancellation day before, and now it's like not only not a cancellation day, but a day that you look forward to?
A really good day.
Right.
Yeah, it's a day that you're like, oh yeah, let's go.
That is a dream come true. I mean,
yep.
That for a fishing guy to take a day that is like the you look at the calendar and you're like, oh man, my back already hurts thinking about the weather that's coming that time of the year, and having to tell these people that have saved up all year long and they come down here and we're going to cancel
and they travel to come.
Yeah, and we're going to cancel it at the boat ramp. Like that sucks. I don't
you
like
know how
doing
that is.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You got customers. It's hard to you're not really trying to talk them out of it, but you're trying to explain to them, we can go, but it's not going to be productive. We're probably going to get wet. And now to be able to say, when they're like, are we going to be able to go? I'm like, heck yeah, we're able to go. We're going to go crush them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
That's really awesome. I was always thinking, like, I never could find that with like how a different boat would open something up for me like that. But I was always thinking, I need a complimentary hobby that when it's blowing like that and just nasty,
you go do something.
Yeah, so like windsurfing or kite surfing, a lot of guys get into that, and it's like when it's blowing, well, we're just going and doing that, right? Like you got something that it's great when your primary is terrible, right?
Yeah.
And so I never found that, but it sounds like the airboat is pretty awesome.
I have probably been able to fish. I've canceled one trip this winter when I would have canceled probably 80% of them.
Wow.
From December till now, I've canceled one, and that was just because of rain.
Now, when the water blows out like that, and I don't know your area, when the water blows out like that, does it shrink the available area so much that there could possibly be too many airboats, or like where does that line get crossed?
There's not enough people to cover the amount of water.
Even when the water gets all blown out, like you're saying,
you're not going to have enough boats there at that time.
Okay.
Not everybody can fish during the week.
Right.
And that's when I try not to fish on Saturdays because of that problem, or Sundays. Sundays I'm in church, and Saturdays I just try to spend with my family because the girls are out of school and the wife's off. So during the week, you might have 4 or 5 airboats running around, which is, I know, sounds kind of crazy. But what that water shrinkage does, when it blows it all out, it forces those fish into certain places.
Yeah.
And they can't go nowhere else. So it's like catching fish in a barrel. It really is. And my customers have taken this phase now. It's cheating. It really is. Like you pull in a little ditch, and they don't have anywhere to go. They can't go out either end. It'll be literally that deep on one end of the hole and be dry on the other end. So they can't go nowhere.
They got their backs out of the water?
No, I mean, it'll be deep. It'll be 4 or 5 foot deep in those ditches, and that's why the fish are going there. Is when the temperature drops and gets cold, that's just a little bit warmer down there at the bottom in that depth.
Now, redfish are pretty hardy. That's what you're mostly fishing for, or do you have black drum up there too?
We do have some black drum, and a lot of times this time of year they're small. They're eating size black drum, little small ones.
But when it gets, say you have a condition mixed with a really low tide and it gets really cold, like just recently it got really cold for you. And now where we are in the Keys and below, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale or maybe below Miami, if it gets that cold, we'll have fish kills.
This past, it was a week, 2 weeks ago, when it got down in the 20s up here, we did have a fish kill. Now, we lost snook and a few mullet. We didn't see any trout. We didn't see any redfish, but we saw a few mullet and then some snook. I actually saw a snook today. It's probably a 28-incher.
Wow.
They just didn't – majority of our snook moved to the Swanee River this time of year, and they'll be fine unless it drops that cold for a certain amount of days. But my cousin fished – the morning after that, the morning it got that cold, and he saw 40-degree water temps.
Wow.
It was 40.5. It was 40.5. Now, way up in the creeks where I was fishing at, it was probably a little warmer. I didn't fish that day, but another airboater friend that's a captain, he caught one small redfish that day. But now I went the following day, and I hammered them. So I don't know if just that one day makes a difference, or it could have been the locations he was fishing. I don't know. We don't fish the same exact areas, but this past week was amazing. Today was amazing. I fished this morning and had 10 keeper reds and probably 30 shorts. So,
wow.
I mean, it was a good day.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And you're fishing out of the airboat right now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How maneuverable is that airboat? You got power poles, and do you have a trolling motor on it too?
I don't have a trolling motor on it, just power poles. But it does okay. I mean, it's not a boat. Airboats fish different than regular boats. They don't drift well. So the cage really catches wind, so it'll want to spin a circle when you're drifting. But I did fish the flats with it last Thursday up north towards Horseshoe where Rob likes to fish. And it did okay using the power poles.
Yeah.
It did all right.
How does that area look right now after the storm that came
through?
I
tell you what, I was really shocked at Horseshoe. Cedar Key got a lot of publicity during the storm, and so did Steenahatchee. But Horseshoe and Swanee-town, they're kind of in between Steenahatchee and Cedar Key. They didn't get a lot of publicity and help, and Horseshoe is still it's still destroyed.
Yeah.
The houses and stuff are coming back, but there's still debris everywhere.
Really, debris everywhere, like big piles of it.
Well, in the water.
Oh,
a lot of stuff in the water at the boat ramp. All the city stuff's gone at the boat ramp. They have 2 porta potties up there instead of a bathroom's rebuilt. And you come to Cedar Key and it looks like nothing ever happened. But down there, it's still there's piles of debris in the marsh.
What do you think the difference is?
Cedar Key got a pile of help. People showed up, because a lot of people like the town of Cedar Key. A lot of people from Gainesville, and they came down and offered their help. And then, FEMA was there, and it's a little bigger town, so they got a lot of government help, I think. And Horseshoe just didn't. I mean, when you go to Horseshoe, the only stuff there is houses. There's no businesses or nothing like that. So besides a fish house or something or a shrimping business. And I just think that they just hadn't gotten, the publicity to get help.
Wow.
Like Cedar Key did. It will come back. It'll come back, but it's just going to take them a little bit longer. But they do have an awesome fishery up there as well.
Yeah, I have fished there, and that I liked it. I like the old Florida. I mean, I love that. I love that whole area because it's so different than
Tarpon Springs all the way up past Steenahatchee. That coastline will never be built on. It's protected.
Yeah.
So the towns that are there can build. But as far as the marsh and all, it will never change.
What has protected it? Why will it never change?
It's some kind of federally protected. I can't think of exactly what the name of it's called, but it's all federally protected. It's wetlands, basically.
Will the towns that are already there, like a Horseshoe or anywhere that we're talking about, will they be able to expand, or they are restricted into what
I think they're restricted into what they have as well. Yeah. The property that's there is already there. It's like Cedar Key. There can't be too many people there because it can't go nowhere. It's an island. So it's a section of islands. It really can't grow. I mean, you might see some lots available in places, but it isn't like a new area. So yeah.
So walk me through your year. Like, you're fishing in the airboat. We're talking about that. And then what happens what happens for the rest of the year? When and how do you decide to get back in the bay boat?
So I'm lucky. I have 2 other captains that are running, out there on the flats. But I'll probably stay in the airboat as long as I'm catching fish. And as it starts warming up, what'll happen is the catfish will start taking over up inside, and that will be time for me to leave for sure. It's time to get out of there.
Yeah, well, we have real shallow, no motor zones and stuff like that. And man, I'll tell you what, like, if somebody asks me the same question, it's like, you'll know, because the bugs. Like, you can only like in the wintertime, the bugs are not bad, but then you go that one day that you shouldn't have gone, and you'll never make that mistake again. You know what I mean?
We had to crank up and leave today. It got really calm, and we have sand gnats, is what we call them, no-see-ums. They were going in my nose and my eyes. I'm like, we got to go. I don't care how good the fish are biting. I can't stand it. We got to move.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to. I mean,
it's just crazy.
You just have to. Do you have bugs other times of the year?
Not too bad. The sand gnats are about all year round, when it gets calm, up around the islands. Now, if you're out there on the flats around the islands, they won't be too bad. But if you're up in the marsh, that's where they get bad, or in town, right at dark and early in the morning. Okay. Oh, yeah. Early in the morning, late in the evening.
Now, do they have a program that sprays? It seems.
Yeah, they do.
They do?
Levy County. Levy County sprays for mosquitoes. Now, it has no effect on sand gnats.
Really?
I don't know what'll kill them. I think God himself's the only one that can change that.
Maybe. I mean, he's not
So,
doing a very good job. When you get into them, it's like, these things are really, really rough.
They're horrible.
Yeah, they can be tough, and there's just no getting away from them. Like like a horsefly or something like that. That thing, they'll bite you, and that's bad. But there's only like 6 or 8 of them.
Yeah, you kill them, and that's
6,000 of these other things, like everywhere. And they get
when
up
they're
under
eating your eyelids, and you're trying to clean a fish. It's horrible.
That's the worst. The eyelid eating.
That's the worst.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So it's time to get back into the bay boat when you just can't catch anything but catfish.
Yeah, when you start getting more catfish than redfish, it's time to go.
What time of the year is that?
It should be by March.
Yeah.
By middle March, I'll be back in my bay boat. And the bad thing is, I'll park my airboat and won't get back in it except to go play. You know, just go ride on the weekends or something. But I'm loving my bay boat. I mean, I love that fishing out there just as much as I do the airboat.
And so, is it primarily redfish that you're fishing for all year round, or do you do something else?
All inshore species. So we'll target trout, redfish, snook. We have a pretty decent triple tail bite during the summer, and then we catch Spanish mackerel and all kind of that kind of inshore species up in our area. But we don't, you don't hardly get. We get stuck on catching trout and redfish because the majority of our customers are wanting to take fish home to eat.
Yeah,
and that it's just a really good game fish.
Right. So, tell me about the trout. Like, that's a place that's known for the monsters up there.
Yeah. So north of us in Horseshoe, they have the monsters. We probably have a better crop of 15 to 19 inch fish than they do. And they have a way better crop of 19 to 30 inch fish.
Do you know why? I mean, do you, now that you fish the area so much, do you have any kind of idea why one would have larger fish than the other?
I personally think it's because their seagrass stays there all year.
Okay.
And just the same as Crystal River has a lot of really big trout down there. I think the clear water, they have real clear water. And I think the seagrass stays pretty decent all the way through the winter. Come when it gets really cold, our seagrass will die in our area, and then it'll regrow every year. So I think that has a big part in it as far as the seagrass. And then they'll have bait out on the flats all year. And then up here, our pin fishing all leave when it gets cold. They won't be on the flats.
Why do you think that is? Because there's not enough grass, or?
Yeah, not enough grass.
Right.
The water gets cold, so they just go offshore.
Okay.
They push out in about 15, 20 feet of water.
And then I know also the gag grouper fishing and stuff like that. Or don't you have really good fishing for that for those up there?
Yeah, in Crystal River area, just south of us. And the reason it's really good in Cedar Key too, but it's good at like 20 foot of water. In Crystal River, you can catch them in 5 foot of water because the Earth's contour, there's way more rock down there up off the bottom. And right there where we're at, there's not a lot of rock that comes up. You might have decent bottom that'll be live bottom or some cheese grater bottom, just rock. But down there, they almost like grow rocks. I mean, they'll be as big as a car.
Right.
So, and that's what they love.
Is that something that you put any time towards?
I've dabbled in it a little bit since I got the bay boat this past year, doing a lot of trolling for them. But I'm trying to learn. I'm listening to some of my elders and some guys that are younger than me that's been doing that, and trying to learn from them and kind of get into that shallow water game as well.
Yeah. Well,
it's definitely
really
fun.
Exciting, man. And,
it's
and
fun. That's for sure.
Those fish, they slam a plug.
I had a couple pull me in the rocks this year that I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So after, so you stay in the bay boat until it starts to cool off, or what?
Yeah, it starts cooling off. This year was the first year I've really had it and been able to experience, I didn't have it real early in the season. I got it in late December. Yeah, late December. So I'll probably get in it sometime around December next year.
Okay.
And start doing it. Because I've had a lot of customer requests. I mean, now that I've got it, it's like I've been flooded with it. I almost would love for us to get another one.
Really?
Just because, I've had quite a few people get interested in it. It's a different experience.
Right.
It really is.
Well, I was thinking that sounds like something I would like to bring my daughter to do, because she's never been in an airboat, and
it's awesome.
I've never spent much time in an airboat.
Yeah.
But to spend a couple of days in an airboat going around, that seems fun.
It's not the same as riding one in the Everglades either. It's totally not the same. Like, I've had some people say, yeah, I've done the tours in the Everglades.
What's different?
Because you're in the mud and there is no water. You're not riding in a marsh. Huh. It's like dry ground with spats of water and little creeks. I posted a video on my Instagram a little while ago of what I was running in today, and it's just a ditch. It's just as wide as a boat, and it's literally, you're just rolling. It's on my story. I don't know if you can pull it up or not, but it's crazy. It's just neat, man. You see all kinds of different.
Did you ever think that that's the kind of thing that you'd be doing before you had the airboat?
No.
How much time did you spend in an airboat before you got one?
I went about 3 or 4 days fishing with different people.
Yeah, it's like me getting one. Like,
yeah,
wow.
It's like, wow. I had to totally relearn fishing spots.
Right.
I fished some places that I could get to in my skiff that I knew were airboat holes, were people, just community holes.
Uh-huh.
But I've also learned that some people they try too hard. So it was a little easier to figure it out. Didn't have to work real hard,
Here it is right here.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that was a short one there. I mean, that water on both sides of us it's literally like an inch deep right there.
That's beautiful.
And we were watching all those birds. So it was pretty crazy. There you go. That one will show it.
That also makes my heart skip a beat. I'm just thinking this is going to be the most stuck I've ever been in my life.
Yep.
Looking at that, but to have that freedom to be able to go and do.
The only thing that will stop you is sand.
Sand?
Airboats do not like sand. If it's white sand, you do not try to go across it.
So did you learn that lesson the hard way?
I learned from other people's mistakes. Fortunately, the only time I went and actually hit some sand where it stopped me, I had slowed way down because I thought that might happen.
Right.
I didn't have enough water on it, and it did just like boom.
Ooh,
it's it.
Like throw you out.
I've heard of people like really close. I've heard of people getting thrown out a lot.
Wow.
You hit sand and it's like somebody just like you stop. I mean, it's crazy. It doesn't skid or nothing. It just stops.
Wow. Yeah, that's something you want to watch out for there. So,
no doubt.
I know that with every kind of boat that I've ever owned, from, like a 36 yellowfin down to like, the tiniest little skiff that even with the tiniest little motor, everybody gets excited about souping them up, right? You want whatever. If you got a 15 horsepower motor on a John boat, you want that thing to go as fast as you could possibly go.
Fastest it'll go.
Right? And so you got weight distribution, you got all this different stuff, and then you get into the skiffs, and not only do you want those to go as fast as they can, but you want them to float as shallow as possible. And there's all, everybody's like talking about the specifications and all this, and that one floats a half an inch deeper than this one, and this is the best one, and that one's 500 pounds lighter. What about airboats? I've seen some at gas stations that look like they are like somebody's pride and joy. They are waxed and super incredible. They look like they've got a huge engine in them. Like, I don't know. Like, that seems like a world that I don't know anything about. I don't know about the airboat world.
It is a whole new world to me. Even like I wouldn't say obsessed with them, but I'm close. So I'm learning this. If you see one that's all waxed and pretty, he probably runs it in the lake somewhere.
Okay,
he probably tools around the trails. He don't beat it out there in the salt water.
Right.
But man, you can do so much. It's just like having a race car.
Yeah.
When they crank up, it's like you hear that sucker camming. The one I'm running has a 383 stroker motor, so it's a small block 350 that's been stroked out.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't tell you what cam and all it has in it, but it's got a gear reduction box. So what that is it's on the back, it's just what it says. So your motor's only turning 3,000 RPMs, but the prop's turning 8,000 RPMs.
All right.
So it just makes your motor last longer. But it's straight headers with the little mufflers on the back. I mean, it's loud. You wear earmuffs.
So how much does the actual propeller, like on an airplane or even on a boat, your propeller makes an incredible difference, and you can have one that will get you, better hole shot, one that's high. I would imagine that it's the same kind of deal.
It's the same thing.
So
deal.
How do you, like, have you had yours long enough to kind of be like, I need a new propeller, like to do what I want to do?
It was set up the way I bought it.
Yeah.
And I have no complaints with it. The boat's done exactly what I've needed to do. I talked to several different people to see what hull, you can get a fiberglass hull or an aluminum hull. And
which is better for what you do?
I think the aluminum hull is better. That's why I went with aluminum.
Is that for durability or for
durability?
Yeah.
You hit a rock with aluminum.
Sure.
You're probably going to laugh. It might ding and dent versus a hole in it.
Now, do you have any sort of like it almost looks like starboard or like people put stuff underneath it?
Yep, they call it polymer.
Okay.
I've got I think it's half-inch polymer on the bottom of mine, plus up the sides a little bit.
Okay.
So, and that kind of, if you're sliding around, you bump a rock, that'll protect you a little bit.
Okay.
But they're not indestructible. By no
I'm
means.
Sure that they're not. Like, you got to learn how to drive the thing, I'm sure.
No doubt.
And know where to drive it and to watch out for, like the sand. I didn't know anything about that.
You just got to be careful. So, I mean,
it's really cool to have, like, for your own story, you've been in a boat most of your life, and now you're getting into this other kind of boating to where you're basically starting over, and you got to learn all these things, just like you had to learn how to navigate in a skiff or
exactly.
Like, I don't know. It seems like that would be super exciting, because
it is very exciting.
After you've been guiding since 2006, it's like, okay, at some point, like, okay, kind of done it.
Yeah.
Like when I got my bay boat for the first time, it was like, okay, this is cool. First of all, my kids like this better, and it's more comfortable. I can go to places that I wasn't able to go before. I can carry bait that I wasn't able to carry before, and it opened up all of these different options that I had never had, and it got me really super excited again. And it was kind of like a second life. Like, wow. Like, this is so cool. I can get back there. I would imagine with the
100%.
airboat, it is just like opening up your eyes to what's possible.
It is 100% what you just said. Stepping from what I call in our skiff is a Carolina skiff. This past August, I got a 23 Skeeter. So, and that was just like you said. I was able to haul more bait. I had rod lockers. I mean, I was like a whole new for me. And now moving to an airboat, it's like I'm a kid again. Yeah. It's like, man, this is awesome. I'm looking forward to going all the time. I want to go run it all the time. I expected the fuel mileage to be way worse than what it is. It actually does pretty decent.
Really?
Yeah, I'm burning like 8 to 10 gallons a trip, so that's not bad. A fuel, I burn that in my Skeeter on a 4-hour trip. So I mean, go figure. Which we don't have to run a long ways. We're very lucky that way. But it's fun. People's eyes light up. You see them, like, they turn around looking at each other like, man, did you see those birds? Or did you see that fish? Did you see that? So it's really neat.
Now, how many people in your particular boat can you take?
Three plus me.
Really?
3 fishermen is about all I want to take. 2's more comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's riding wise. You could probably ride 5 in it comfortable, but fishing room is just not, you're limited.
So when you get in this boat and you're going into places that you've never been before and seeing things that you've never experienced before, what has been the thing that surprised you the most about where redfish go? I would imagine that you've seen them in no water.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of those situations.
It's unbelievable how they'll be in there with the bait, to me, and the places they'll be.
Like in the bait without eating?
Yeah. And there'll be mullet and mud minnows just all around them, but they're just laying in there.
Huh.
And why I don't know why they're not feeding on them, and you throw a shrimp in there and then he feeds on him.
Huh.
It's pretty wild. But then it's it's amazing to me how you can go to the same place every day behind other boats, and there'll be so many fish. Like it's mind blowing how many fish will be in these places, and you'll catch them and catch them and catch them and catch them, just and then go back and do it again the next day. And it's mind blowing when you get back in there.
What about shallow situations?
Oh,
I mean, have you seen them in shallower water than you ever anticipated that they would be in from fishing in other boats?
I think that will come. I think a little later in the year, because right now they're back in those holes and they don't come out of them.
Uh-huh.
I think later in the year, once I start running out there on the flats. Now I've seen them out there when I've been running before. I've seen, their backs will be out of the water. Our fish will be out there. A good friend of mine was out fly fishing the other day for him, and they were all over the flats too. That's another thing that's crazy. Not all our fish go in the creeks.
Mm-hmm.
He said he probably saw a couple hundred fish out there tailing around. Now he couldn't get them to eat, but they were in a foot or less. So, but most of the time, those fish don't have much pressure.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
That's cool. And how many guys do you think are operating in that area?
In Cedar Key, there's probably about 24, 25 of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's only probably 14 that are hardcore that are going pretty regular in our area.
And of those, there's 4 that are family.
There's
Right.
4 that are family.
Yeah.
And there's only about probably 8 total that I would say, hey, you need to go with them. If you can't go with me, you need to go with them.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. You got places to stay down there? Like where do your anglers stay? I'd like to bring my daughter down there.
We have several very nice condos style hotels. They're all most of them are all privately owned. So there'll be a full condo, but they're all decorated different, and they'll have booking agencies that book for them.
Okay.
There's several really nice ones. Some of them are right on the water, some of them aren't. But most of them all have trailer parking for boats. It's not the most fisherman friendly town.
Yeah.
As far as having places to park your trailer and all, because it's just, it's kind of compact, but it is an awesome place, man. It's not near the pressure that south of us gets.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable.
Interesting. So where do people book you and get information on your service?
Well, you can go right to our website. It's fishcedarkey.com.
Okay.
And you can email me right off of there, and that's the best way to get a hold of me.
And then you can help the people find if I called you, you would help to find the.
Yep. I'll put you in touch with the right people or lead you in the right way.
Right.
So most all those condos have websites. You can go right to them and book them, and I'll tell you which ones to go to and which ones to stay away from.
Man, that's awesome. That sounds fun. I want to come down and fish with you. It sounds like
let's do it.
Sounds awesome. I haven't fished out of an airboat like that. I think it'd be really fun.
I promise you, if you come up here to Cedar Key, you will be back.
Yeah.
Some of the other guys that's been on your show, Carter Andrews, he came one time, and now he comes every year.
Is that right?
So it is.
Did you fish him out of an airboat?
I did not get to fish him out of an airboat yet.
Yeah.
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 So, he's done some snook fishing up here with some friends of mine. He's done some fly fishing with another friend of mine. I've yet to have him on my boat, but we've had some long conversations, and I would love to get him on an airboat.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's
pretty solid.
Me and Carter go way back.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we're both from Tennessee, and then we both ended up in Jackson, Wyoming at the same time, working for 2 different outfitters out there.
Yeah.
And then our paths have crossed a whole bunch of times over the years, and ended up. Cool. I fished a bunch of tournaments with him. We did the Redbone tournaments with he and his wife, and did the Madfin tournament with Carter. I don't know. Sometimes you even forget these things until somebody reminds you, and it's like, oh yeah. I fished with him a couple times, and then it's like, man, I fished with him more than a couple times. Like, I don't know. Carter's a hardcore fisherman, man. He definitely likes getting it done. All right, cool. Jimbo. Well, man, I definitely want to come down there and come up there and fish with you. And I'll see if I can get my daughter. She's just in Auburn there, so.
Nice.
Yeah, we might be able to
get her to come down and you come up.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Cool
well,
deal.
If you guys don't, what's your social media, Jimbo?
Social media is Captain Jimbo Keith on Instagram, and just regular old Jimbo Keith on Facebook, or Saltwater Assassin Fishing Charters.
Okay, that's a good way to.
That's
find
our YouTube
you.
as well.
Okay, YouTube. So you're all over. Go find him, check it out, and if you want to see some old Florida, like
Oh yeah,
Old
definitely.
Florida. That's where it is, man. It's it still looks like that book that we talked about, man. A Land Remembered. What an incredible book that is. And if you haven't read that book, A Land Remembered, especially if you're into Florida history, I mean, that book is truly amazing. Like,
it's
Florida
amazing.
Was a rough place.
Rough. It'll make you have a whole new respect for living in Florida.
Yeah, bears, wolves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all the stuff that they had to deal with, and that guy doing it with just his wife and his son, like, unbelievable. Highly, highly recommended. It's actually in the book club. Go to TomRowlandPodcast.com. It's in the book club. You can get that book, and I liked it on audiobook. Personally, I listened to an audiobook. Yeah.
Audio.
I listened to that with my wife on a long drive, and she was into it just like I was. I was like, this is unbelievable. But awesome. That one's highly recommended. All right. So go check out Jimbo, check out A Land Remembered, and then go see what the remaining bits of what that looks like around Cedar Key. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, man.
All right. Thanks, Jimbo. We'll see you later. See ya.